Imagine being the man tasked with condemning your spiritual brothers, all while secretly working to ensure their survival. That was the impossible position of Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger in the summer of 1988. On June 30 of that year, the world watched as Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre consecrated 4 bishops, Bernard Fellay, Bernard Tissier de Mallerais, Richard Williamson, and Alfonso de Galarreta, without papal mandate. The Vatican's response was swift and severe: automatic excommunication. The public narrative was sealed. This was schism, rebellion, a permanent break. But hidden beneath the official condemnations, a different story was unfolding. The man who would later become Pope Benedict XVI saw something else entirely. Not enemies, but brothers. Not a permanent rupture, but a temporary tragedy he was determined to heal. You see, just weeks before those fateful consecrations, on May 5, 1988, Ratzinger and Lefebvre had actually reached an agreement. The deal was nearly signed, but Lefebvre withdrew at the last moment, convinced that Rome was asking him to betray the council. Ratzinger was left holding a failed treaty, and he felt that failure personally. When colleagues demanded the immediate and total suppression of all traditionalist communities, to crush the Lefebvrists completely, Ratzinger pushed back internally, hard. He recognized something others couldn't see, that these were men who loved the same ancient Mass he loved, and in his theological vision, what was once holy remains holy. This conviction sparked a hidden war inside the Vatican walls. On one side stood the Secretariat of State and others pushing aggressively for total modernization, a clean break with the liturgical past. On the other stood Ratzinger, armed with a simple but profound belief: a church without its past is a church without a future. He held privately what few dared say publicly, that the old rite had never been truly abrogated, despite the prevailing legal opinions of the 1970s and 80s. The Mass of Ages wasn't banned, it was merely waiting. So how do you protect a group technically outside the church while serving inside it? Ratzinger's answer was strategic silence. When Pope John Paul II established the Pontifical Commission Ecclesia Dei on July 2, 1988, the world saw a disciplinary mechanism, a lifeboat to rescue traditionalists who hadn't followed Lefebvre into schism. But behind closed doors, this was Ratzinger's project. It was a lifeboat designed to keep tradition afloat while he navigated the treacherous waters of Vatican politics. The strategy worked through private correspondence. While public statements condemned, Ratzinger quietly encouraged traditionalist groups to hold fast, to remain steadfast, to trust that Rome was not their enemy, even when it looked exactly like that. Fast forward nearly 2 decades, the cardinal becomes pope, and in 2007, the vision he protected in secret became the law of the land. Summorum Pontificum declared that the 1962 Missal was never abrogated and could be freely celebrated by any priest of the Roman Rite. Bishop Fellay of the SSPX called it not a step but a great leap in the right direction. Ratzinger had used the very existence of the SSPX as strategic leverage to argue for the rights of all traditional Catholics. The movement he secretly protected had become the instrument for vindicating the Church's living tradition. But now we must look at today, 2026, and ask honestly, is Ratzinger's vision of reconciliation still alive? The landscape has shifted dramatically. Bishop Tissier de Mallerais has passed away. Richard Williamson was expelled years ago. The SSPX now has only 2 aging bishops, Bernard Fellay and Alfonso de Galarreta, both in their late 60s, overseeing nearly 700 priests and a global flock of faithful. The question isn't academic anymore. Who will consecrate the next generation? Some within the SSPX feel that accepting the 2009 lifting of excommunications was a trap, an implicit promise never to consecrate another bishop without Rome's approval. Others feel the pressure of necessity building again, wondering if they must follow Lefebvre's example of 1988 simply to survive. Pope Francis has tried to build bridges, declaring SSPX confessions and marriages valid in 2015 and 2016 respectively, but the doctrinal gap over Vatican II remains the impassable chasm. So what do we take from this story? A cardinal who used strategic silence to protect what was beautiful, a pope who believed in the reform of the reform, not rupture but healing through continuity, and a future still being written by aging bishops and uncertain choices. The question for us here in 2026 is whether we can hold the same vision. Can we love the Church in its past, its present, and its future, all at once? That was Ratzinger's secret, and it may yet be ours.